I was watching the panel, a Pulitzer Prize winner, a PhD. Adam Weinberg's really smart, you can tell that. And then you got me. So I was a little worried, so last night I went out and I worked out from midnight to 2 in the morning. And you might notice I'm a little fat, so I need to be working out. And then I got back, I figured, well, I got to come say something smart today, so I started doing my research. And for 2 hours, I put together a very intense, well-researched talk about monetary policy. And then I get here and find out that, well, I'm not supposed to talk about monetary policy. So we're back to square one today, folks. But I got to tell you, for 30 years, I was an activist trained by some of the same people that trained Adam Weinberg. So I knew a lot of the stuff he was talking about. And I was on the outside. I was so frustrated trying to get legislators to do the right thing. It's a very tough thing to do. They get them to do what you want them to do. Remember, politics, as rawest form, is really who rules whom. Who rules whom? That's what we're talking about. That's a very rawest form. So, how do we communicate to legislators and get them to do what we want to do? Well, it's limited what we can do, but we can do something. Let me walk through how my office handles it. This is my 3rd year. I'm actually the only guy in the legislature that's won 2 very tough elections in 3 years. I ran 2 years ago. I knocked off a sitting Republican incumbent, and then I had to run for the next regular election, which would be the normal election that my district would run in, and I drew a 2-term county commissioner, and that was a tough race. And I looked at that Nebraska Press Hall of Fame. If they ever have a Hall of Fame for guys who get the hell beat out by the media, I'm going to be in it. I can tell you that right now. So one thing that's always been important to me is handling my constituents. I'm a senator. What does that mean? Well, a senator in our state, we don't have representatives like 49 other states. We have senators. So I just don't represent my constituents. I represent everybody. So I represent District 2, half of Sarpy County, all of Cass County, a little bit of Nebraska City, but also I'm supposed to represent the entire state. Now where that gets a little shaky is this entire state doesn't vote for me. So I care a lot more about the people in my district and what they're saying and about their needs. I mean, I get stuff from people all over the place, and we politely answer it, and I'm responsive to anyone that writes me or calls me or emails me. I shouldn't say write. When I say write, just remember that's emailing. You know, I get 3 letters a year, maybe 10 letters a year in a good year. So when I say write, I mean it's emails, what I'm talking about. So what we try to do is we have a rule in our office. We respond to every call that day. We respond to every email that day. And every letter by the next day gets a response. Now, we don't always hit that goal, but that is the goal. It falls through the cracks once in a while, but that is the goal. When you are contacting your senator, you got to tell them where you live. Now, the good news is, if things like WeVote, that's taken care of for you. But it's very important. I want to know where you live, because that's going to be how much time I spend on what. I mean, that opens my eyes a little further. If you live in Eagle, or you live in Nebraska City, or you live in Springfield, or Louisville, or in Lahawka, in my district, that's important stuff. And when you get a little more love from me, I love everybody, but you get extra love, maybe a donut or something, if you live in my district. So we get these things to come in, and they're all over the place. And they're usually 60% or something personal. I tried to use this government service and it didn't work. Help me. The other 40% are more philosophical. Stop Obamacare, please, Senator. I can't quite do that. Get that pipeline built. Well, I can't do that either. Save some babies. Well, maybe I can do that. I can't do that much that either, but we try. So you got to answer that too. You got to philosophically tell them where you are and you're listening to them. Some people just want to know that you're listening. They just want to know that you're listening, and you respond back and you let them know you're listening. And okay, my senator's listening. Good. Or that Senator Kintner is listening. Even though I live in North Platte, I'm glad Senator Kintner is listening. I'm serious. I'm glad to know that. I'm the only senator down there. Well, no, Senator Epke is now too. We're the only two senators down there that post every vote that we cast online. I want people in this state to know where I stand and what I'm doing. So on that first day, from the floor, in real time, I'm on my senator Facebook page, and I posted every person that I voted for speaker, and for committee chairman. Laura Epke did the exact same thing. I think we're the only two that do that on every single vote, although I think some other senators might do it. So we try to reach out, and we try to be transparent, and we try to show people what we're doing. That's probably not your senator, though. You're going to have to work a little bit. They talked about how hard it is to find out what a senator's doing, to find out how they vote. Even the paper will say, this passed 28 to 20. Well, you don't know where your senator was on it. I mean, you got to do some digging to find it. It's hard to engage people when you have such a convoluted process. So I think we've got some good ideas for fixing that and trying to engage more people. I assure you, when I walk off this stage, I will tweet out a photo of what I was doing right here. I want people to know, what's your senator spending time when I tour a school. I take pictures of me touring the school. I said I can see I'm touring schools. I'm touring Ash Grove Cement, which is the biggest employer in my district. And Andy Curtin actually went with me on that tour. We tweeted that out, put it on our Facebook page, try to engage people in what we're doing. They can see where I'm spending my time. I'm touring a daycare and got a bunch of little kids sitting on my knees, and we send the picture out. So I do everything on my end to try to engage people and let them see what I'm doing. And on their end, once they have that information, they can do with that as they need to. I would say, as I was campaigning again for re-election, I would say people love the fact that I'm totally transparent. They love that I post every vote. The people are in the second house, right? Unfortunately, they're watching Dancing with the Stars. They're going to soccer games. They're watching football. They're not exactly too engaged. But they're glad that we do that. So anything that we can do to further engage the public, like WeVote, or what I do by publishing all my votes online, or do whatever we can do to engage the public, helps. Now, let me talk about a battle. Medicaid expansion was probably the biggest fight that we had when I was down there. As a freshman, I was one of the people leading the fight to stop it. The people who were supporting it were just as adamant it was the best thing that we should do. There were strong feelings on both sides. I understand both sides. I understand why people want it. I certainly understand why we shouldn't do it, but that's not why I'm not here to make that point. But that was a very, very tough campaign. So people were engaged, and we got an awful lot of emails. I was getting between 50, Annie, what was it, 50 to 100 emails a day, maybe? Probably more, and they're from all over the place. But one thing it didn't take us very long to find out is a lot of these emails, were sent by third parties, and they would capture. It might be someone you like, some conservative group saying stop it, some advocacy group saying we need to do it, and you could always tell all the conservatives had Joe Jones at Gmail, and then you saw Firespring .firespring after it, which is I think it's a it's a program that you can use to take people's emails and send a email on their behalf. And then the other side had someone other, so I could look at who was sending it and figure if they were pro or against. Now my biggest concern at that point was who's in my district. Everyone got a response. And that was tough, because I do all my own responses. I'm sitting there on the floor during the filibuster doing the responses. I cut and paste. I didn't do it personal for everyone. But the people who are from my district got a little bit extra. I gave them a little bit extra response, a little bit more to make sure they totally understood where I was coming from. And if they had a specific reason they didn't like it or a specific reason they did like it, I tried to make sure I addressed that. Everyone else just got a standard email, said this is where I stand, I've looked at it, here's why I oppose it, and I would go on from there. So if you are contacting a senator, a legislator, it helps for them to know where you are from. It helps that you're contacting your own. You can contact others. It doesn't move the ball very far down the field, but maybe it helps a little bit. But if they know that you are in their district, you will get their attention. Generally, 10 to 15 emails or 15 to 20 calls on something, and that's like a landslide. You probably have the senator's attention, especially if it's not one of these super big issues where you're dug in and you got your position, the other side's got their position. If it's something it's not as controversial as Medicaid expansion or death penalty or gay rights or something, it's not something where everyone's dug in. If it's something where you're not quite sure about, people are send me an email. Well, I never heard that issue before. And I got to get my staff, looking at it. Oh, well, that's not bad. Okay, we can do that. And we started talking to our senators and trying to figure out, can we do something on this? So there are a lot of issues that aren't that cut and dry. We're entrenched to this side, the other side's entrenched there, we're not going to move much. A lot of issues, citizens can bring it to our attention and it gets focused on it. We will at least look at it and maybe we'll do something about it. And if we keep getting contacted about it, we'll probably do something about it. Let me talk about the nature of politics. Adam did a great job talking about the nature of politics. I'm going to talk a little more about it. Most senators, most politicians, county commissioners, everyone, their number one goal in life is to not make anyone mad. That's their number one goal. Well, the number one goal is to get reelected. But in doing that, you don't want to make anyone mad. And if you think you're going to make someone mad, most politicians are somewhat risk adverse. And if they think they're going to make someone mad, they try to start figuring out how not to make someone mad. And they want to straddle that fence. If you've heard a politician speak, and I used to be so frustrated to go to these things, and I hear politicians speak, and they're talking in circles, they're straddling the fence, they got their finger in the air trying to figure what we want to hear, and sometimes they're flat out lying to you. Because they try to, you knock on a door and a politician, you say, where do you stand on this? And he's kind of sizing you up trying to figure out what you want to hear before he answers. And then when he answers, you get done going, what? Was that for or against? So that's why they're like that. They're just risk adverse. The less number of people they get mad, the less heat they take. Most politicians want to stay in the tall grass. And they'll pop their head out once in a while to see what's going on. An operation like WeVote cuts the grass. It exposes what they're doing. It gives you an opportunity to say, you're not in the tall grass anymore. You are now exposed. You've got to do the right thing, and we expect you to do that. You need to speak to your senator in those terms. I expect you to do this. The number one thing you can do is threaten their job. It's very tough for individual citizens to threaten the job. You need to have a little muscle behind you. But I tell you what, once one senator gets knocked off for, let's say, opposing gun rights or something, the other senators can't fall right in line. So if you can make one of us an example, the rest of us tend to behave. That's just the nature of politics. Engaging more people, I don't care where you are in the political spectrum, engaging more people is good for our democracy. This whole idea of a unicameral was, we are the House and you are the second House. It doesn't, in theory, that doesn't work at all. So anything that we can do to get people more engaged makes our system of government better, especially in our state, because there's only 49 people. I am more powerful than a U.S. congressman. Think about Brad Ashford, who's now the Democrat congressman from Omaha. He was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and I know that committee because all my bills died there the last 2 years. It's a place where good bills go to die. And he was powerful, and he got things through, the juvenile justice reform, criminal justice reform. He did some big things there. He was a big dog or a big fish in a little pond, a big dog in a dog pound. Now, he's a congressman. He was 1/49th of 1/3 of the government as a senator. What's he now? 1/435th of 1/3 of the government, and he's in the minority party. So he ain't getting squat done. He's not passing any bills. He's not doing anything. He's answering constituent mail. That's about what he's going to do. I mean, it's very, very tough. Where we are here, I am a lot more powerful as 1 of 49. This is where the action is, especially when you have a dysfunctional government in Washington with a president and a Congress of a different party, and it's tough to get anything done. And by the way, that's not bad. I'd rather have Congress doing nothing than making government bigger and doing bad things, in my opinion. Now, if you're on the other side of the political spectrum, then maybe you don't want to do things because it'll go against you. But dysfunctional government's not always bad. We don't have a dysfunctional government here. We have 49 people. We generally work together, and you can have a lot of say in what we do if you get the information. If you can get the information about what we're doing, and you can see what we're doing, 10 or 15 emails, 15 or 20 calls are good. Now, let me tell you some other calls we get. There are political technology companies, and they'll call you up and you'll say, this big issue is coming up. Let me use Medicaid expansion. Medicaid expansion is coming up, and Senator Kintner is not for it, and he needs to be for it. Would you like us to connect you to Senator Kintner? Push 1. And they push 1, and they get transferred to my office. And we get those, and we get like 7 or 8 of those in a row. And then they stop. So you know it's coming. Not that effective. It's much more effective when people like you email us, call us. You can be organized, but not that organized. Okay? So that's kind of how we see it. That's kind of what we do down there. More citizen engagement will make our government better. You bring up ideas, you bring up issues that we don't always know about. And we got a lot of senators, they get elected and they don't go back to their district, they don't go door to door anymore, they're not engaged. You need to go seek them out and tell them what you expect from them. And you'd be surprised, relatively small numbers on a lot of issues can move things a long way. So I got to stop right now because we got other things to do today. Are there any? I can probably take a question or two. Yes?
Is the use of the filibuster in the Nebraska legislature about the right rate, too little, or too much?
What, the threshold for cloture?
No.
What?
Just as I've watched the unicameral over the past 5 decades, I've perceived an increased use of the filibuster.
Yes.
My question is, what is your philosophy on the filibuster? Is it about right, the rate that is used? Yes,
I was probably Mr. Filibuster last year since I was in the minority. So yes, on big things that are game changers, I think it's right to use. I don't think it was misused. It was used on big things that were game changers that would substantially change the way we do things, either for good or for bad. I've been on both sides of Phil. I've lost them and I've won them, and I've stopped things. I've had things I like stopped. Yes, it's right. The reason is because we only have one house. So there's a lot of ways to stop a bad bill when you have 2 houses. You can stop it. I won't go in all the ways. There's a lot of ways to stop it with 2 houses. With one house, a bad idea can get on a roll and get through it pretty quick. So we do some things to slow it down. We make every bill have a hearing. No matter how stupid the bill is, it gets a hearing. It has to be read and voted on 3 distinct times. You can't wave that away. You've got to vote on 3 times, and the filibuster. So that was supposed to make up for not having 2 houses. And I think it probably does. It's about right. It's a pretty high threshold of 33 for the cloture. I think there were maybe 4 or 5 filibusters last year 3 of them were taken all the way to cloture. 2 of them were stopped about 6 hours. They didn't go the full 8 hours. So I think it's a useful tool. I think it's used about right. And but when it's used against you, you sure are mad. Hey, it deserves a vote. How can you not let us have a vote? But then when it's a bad bill, you love the thing. So I think people get mad all the time. I know the Journal Star said these filibusters are bad. We should be voting on this stuff. But you know, when voter ID was up and it got filibustered and lost by 2 votes, Journal Star didn't seem to worry about it too much then. So it's whose ox is being gored. So it's fine, I think. Yes?
One of the main things it looks like the WeVote website can do is almost make it a public record, on how many constituents on either side of an issue are contacting the senator. For example, someone could see on your page maybe that 50 of your constituents want you to vote for something and 10 want you to vote against it. Do you think that there needs to be some kind of accountability system where you can see how many people are contacting the senator's office? Would that be good for the process, do you think?
No. I mean, it would be good, but the logistics of doing it would be bad. The amount of time and effort it would take to make that public. You should be able to ask your senator, and if he gives you the information, good. If he doesn't, you can take care of it at the next election. Someone called my office. I make my office keep the records. Well, I keep them by the phone. There's a little tally, and we look at all the emails, and we have those numbers just so we know. And there's from time to time I'll get up on the floor and I'll say, I've been contacted 231 times, and 230 I'm in favor of my position. Get with it, folks. I don't know if it works, but I do it. So I use that, but I don't know logistically how you would do that. And I'm not a guy trying to cover my tracks and make it easy. I'm a transparency guy, but I'm not sure the logistics of doing that. But you ought to be able to call your senator and ask him for that information.
And I guess my point was, we could take a senator's word for it if they said that 232 people. Is there a better way? Because sometimes senators' offices are not always genuine with the level of consistent communication that they get.
Well, I don't know how you enforce phone calls. If that's the guy calls, you put a little thing. If you're keeping it, you write it down. Emails you can track a little bit. Letters you can't track, and phone calls you can't track. So if you got fundamentally dishonest guys, and there are dishonest guys who will lie to your face in our legislature, yes, there are. You can't make a dishonest guy honest. There's no way to do it. You got to elect better people.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's exactly what WeVote is designed to do, is to make a public record of constituent sentiment. So, Senator Kintner,
Yes.
I know it's difficult to do, but that's exactly what we have done. So,
I think that does it as well if it's going to be done. All right, I can take one more if it's quick. If not, I know okay, one more.
You mentioned that writing letters doesn't really affect you. Is that for everybody or just yourself? Are we seeing us in an age where people don't write letters anymore anyway, and that we need to adapt to
Well, if I get 3 letters, we're going to frame the darn things because we don't get letters anymore. It's all emails.
But does it mean more to you? Like I've heard if there's like an equation out there, it says like 1 letter is equal to 10 emails equal to 20 phone calls or whatever.
You know what? When you ask a politician about something like that, about the process, he's going to answer you. The first thing you have to ask yourself is what's in it for him. For instance, you've seen the little postcard campaigns where some organization will say, contact your senator, here's a postcard, it's got the text already on there, and you just sign it and put your name, your address on and send it in. And senators get big stacks, congressmen do especially, but they get stacks like that. Oh, those things don't work. We'd rather have a letter. Horse crap. Ask what's in it for them. What's in it for them? Hey, don't send me those things. Write a whole letter out. He knows he'll get 10 of those instead of 500 postcards. Don't listen to your politicians. Don't let them tell you what the rules of the game are. Always when they tell you how things work down at the Capitol, wherever the Capitol is, first thing you do, ask yourself, what's in it for him? If I do what he tells me to do, does that help him or does it help me? I'll give you one more example. You go into a senator and you sit down and he goes, hey, I'm getting an awful lot of these mean postcards. I'm getting an awful lot of this stuff. If you don't turn off the heat, I'm never going to vote for your bill. Horse crap. Turn off the heat. Call him more. Send him more stuff. What's in it for him? He's trying to get the heat off of himself. So, I don't know if they get an answer in there. Don't let them tell you how the process works. You know what works. Send them emails, send them postcards, letters if you must. But yes, you can do that too. That's if it gets as big as we think it's going to be. I think that'll be a really good thing. But the minute they tell you that, hey, all this stuff, your pressure put on me is not going to work, turn up the heat, give them more pressure. Don't let them get away. Make them accountable for what you want them to do. You got to do that. Thanks a lot for having me out.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Thanks so much, Senator Kintner. Really appreciate your time here on a